Today, I'm going to break down how I take the standard 4 to 5 page website creation process and adapt it to accommodate bigger websites, so 10 to 20 plus pages. And I'm going to use a recent real project as an example to give you an actual window into each step. So if you're interested in the option of taking on a smaller number of projects, but ones that are larger in scope and value, then I think this is going to be really helpful. And I know when I was starting out, it was very hard to find specific guidance on anything beyond a 4 to 5 page marketing website process. So by the end of this video, I want you to have a better idea of how to adapt those steps to work for websites with more pages and a bit more complexity. And this is so that you can also have the option of scaling your business with project size and value rather than constantly hustling to fill your calendar with a ton of smaller website projects. By the way, my name's Anna and I'm here to help you design great websites and run a strong freelance business. Let's dive in. Step 1 is always about gathering enough context to set a really strong foundation for the rest of the project. And for bigger websites, this step changes for me in a few key ways compared to a smaller site. So I do always start with a detailed Google Doc where I collect a bunch of information about the business. The big difference is that for a larger site, no matter what your method is, so whether you like to do a questionnaire like I do or a workshop, you want to make sure that you have a way to understand the key pieces of information and content that this site will need to cover. And this is to ensure that your sitemap is accounting for everything. So for smaller sites, the pages are usually so standard that this is just way less important. But for example, in the case of this project, which was for a warehousing and logistics business, this is the step that revealed that in addition to those standard pages, it would make sense for us to add a set of pages for all of the industries that this business served, as well as all of the different services that they offered, and also a separate dedicated FAQ page. So side note here is that the client kickoff questionnaire is really my main tool for collecting this information, but I do usually do some competitor research as well, just to make sure I understand what everybody else is including on their websites. The next phase for me involves translating all the context that's been collected into a project strategy and planning deck. And the main sections that I include are 1, a summary of who the business is and the most important aspects that will need to be communicated on the website. So this is basically just me repeating back to the client everything that I've learned to make sure that I understand them correctly. Second section covers creative. So this is where I will present different visual directions we could take as mood boards or stylescapes. And the third section covers the website architecture and a basic sitemap. The big difference for big websites is that this last section, I spend a bit more time mapping out how all of the different pieces are going to connect. So for this project, we had those services and industries pages, we had a case studies page, FAQ. So all of these need to be set up not only in a way that's flexible and easy for the client to maintain, but they also need to be set up so that certain content can appear in multiple different places across the website automatically if you want them to. So for example, if a case study was tagged with a specific industry, we wanted that to then automatically show up on the industry page. So if you've built CMS heavy sites before, I'm sure this is all review, but the key point is that with bigger websites, I spend quite a bit of extra time planning this site structure to make sure I really understand how everything's going to fit together and how the pages interconnect. Last thing I want to say here is that for big website projects, I do generally flesh out the first 2 sections of the deck more as well. So I have one more condensed strategy and planning deck template that I use for shorter website sprints, so 4 to 5 pagers. And then I have another template for more comprehensive, bigger projects. And I'm working on a shareable version of those templates, which I will link below when they're ready. But again, regardless of your particular method or the templates you prefer to use, The main idea is just to set a super strong foundation and align on a plan before diving into any actual design work. Next up is the homepage, and in general, the homepage is what really locks in the creative direction and sets the tone for the rest of the website. And this stuff doesn't change a crazy amount for me between small versus big websites. The homepage might just be a bit longer if it's a huge site. So definitely I leave a bit of extra time for that. I usually present two options, and as always, I just make sure to really help the client understand the implications of each one. So how would their audience perceive them with more photos versus more graphics, or with a light color palette versus a more dark mode palette? And the goal is always just to guide them towards choices that make the most sense for their business and their audience. And for this project, I had a lot of fun adding personality with these little badges and some subtle animation effects. My philosophy with these things is really just less is more. I think a few nice, unique brand elements and thoughtful animations can really go a long way. Anything that's added without a specific reason, I think can end up really cluttering the design. So once the homepage is approved, I move on to the other pages. Designing all of the other pages and creating a full website prototype is a step that's pretty different for bigger projects. And in my experience, this is where a lot of the time can end up going, right? Because the client needs to be happy with the design of many different pages, and a lot of content and visual assets need to be accounted for. My main advice here would be just to stay super organized with content. So never just ask a client to email me the copy when it's ready. I would make it dead simple and set them up for success. So I like to create a Google Doc with all of the pages broken down by section, so that the client or someone from their team can just fill things in and understand exactly what they need to provide. This does take a bit of extra work upfront for me, but in my experience, it's so worth it because it really makes everyone's life easier by preventing tons of back and forth later on. Once all the pages have their design and the majority of their content in place, I present the full site as a Figma prototype, just like I would do for a smaller website, in order to get approved before moving on to the build. For bigger websites, I do a few things differently during the development and QA phase. So first of all, personal preference, I like to delegate the build of the website rather than do it myself on very large projects. So I usually bring in a Webflow specialist to support so that I can focus on final copy, assets, and client coordination. I have done it all myself in the past, and I've just found that having support, I feel, gives the client a smoother experience and it keeps me a bit more sane. The second thing that I do is just leave extra time for QA, or quality assurance. So bigger, more complex sites just have more room for glitches. I check everything across all devices multiple times, but even then, sometimes I don't catch small things until the second or third time. And that's also where having an extra set of eyes supporting the development helps a lot. A few final notes before we wrap up. So number one, I would never underestimate the importance of project management on big website projects. So as a solo business owner or a freelancer, you're not just the designer and the strategist, you're also managing the project. And every time I send a message to a client, I try to ask myself, am I being super clear about the purpose of the message, the next steps, what I'm asking for from the client? I always use bullet points, and I never send big paragraphs that might just get skipped over. Number two, I would say that sometimes going much bigger is actually counterintuitively easier. So large websites are obviously a lot of work, especially if it's your first time working on one and you're still kind of smoothing out your systems. But I still feel that large websites are often easier than juggling many smaller projects. They've become super valuable to my business, and I hope that you find the same. I also hope that by the end of this video, you've felt more empowered to tackle them in the future. As always, Definitely subscribe if you want more examples of real life website processes. Thanks a lot.